Welcome to Glisso English. Real life stories.
Have you ever tried to keep love alive across thousands of miles? In today's story, we follow Emma and Ryan, a couple struggling to maintain a spark over glitchy video calls while living in different time zones. Join us as we explore their challenges, their laughs, and the lessons they learn about patience, communication, and love that survives even the longest distance. This story isn't just for learning English, it's about navigating real-life relationships and growing together.
Emma and Ryan had always been inseparable. From late-night coffee runs to spontaneous walks in the park, they shared everything: jokes, dreams, and even silly arguments that ended in laughter. College had been their world, and together it felt like nothing could separate them. Then came the job offer. Ryan's dream position was overseas, thousands of miles away. They hugged tightly as he boarded the plane, promising each other that distance wouldn't break them. "We'll make it work," Ryan said, forcing a smile, though his eyes were already clouded with worry. The first video call was magical. Seeing Ryan's face, hearing his voice, even with the slight delay in connection, felt almost like being together. They laughed, they shared stories of their days, and they felt close again, even with continents between them. But behind the smiles, both of them felt the first hint of worry. Could love survive screens, lagging connections, and endless time zones? Could they really keep the spark alive when life pulled them apart? That night, Emma stared at her laptop long after the call ended, a mix of excitement and unease swirling in her chest. She didn't yet know that the challenges ahead would test their patience, their trust, and their love in ways they had never imagined.
At first, Emma and Ryan tried to ignore the small frustrations. The frozen screens, the pixelated faces, and the delayed voices felt minor compared to being able to see each other at all. But soon, those minor annoyances started turning into real problems. One evening, Emma called Ryan after a long day at work. She sat cross-legged on her bed, laptop balanced on her knees, and waited eagerly for him to answer. "Hey, you there?" she asked, a little too loudly when the video finally connected. "Yeah, can you hear me?" Ryan's voice lagged slightly, the words arriving out of sync with his lips. "I can hear you. Can you see me okay?" Emma adjusted the camera, frustrated when his face froze mid-smile. "I think so," Ryan muttered. His image wavered like a bad TV signal, and then suddenly his screen went black for a few seconds. Emma's heart sank. "Ryan, hello?" she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The screen flickered back to life, and Ryan was laughing. "What's so funny?" she asked, confused. "You just looked like you were yelling at me," Ryan said, still chuckling, unaware that her earlier question had been delivered 3 minutes late. Emma frowned. "I was not yelling. You sounded mean," she replied, hurt creeping into her tone. Ryan's laughter stopped. "Wait, what? I wasn't trying to be mean." "Exactly my point," Emma snapped, feeling a mix of frustration and sadness. "It's like every time we talk, something goes wrong. Either I can't hear you, or you can't hear me, or we just mess up." Ryan rubbed his eyes, trying to calm himself. "I know, I'm sorry. We're trying our best, right?" Emma sighed and looked down at her hands. "I know, sometimes it feels like we're drifting apart, even when we're on a call." They stayed silent for a few moments, each staring at the screen, each aware of the invisible wall that distance and technology had created. That night, their video call ended without the warmth and laughter they were used to. For the first time, Emma felt the weight of the distance pressing in. Not just the miles, but the miscommunications, the glitches, and the moments when they couldn't understand each other. It wasn't just a bad connection, it was the beginning of a new challenge, learning how to stay close when every word, every expression could be distorted, delayed, or misunderstood. Emma closed her laptop slowly, hugging her knees to her chest. She loved Ryan, but the video calls that were supposed to keep them together sometimes felt like they were pushing them further apart. And somewhere across the ocean, Ryan was feeling the same way.
As weeks passed, the reality of living in different time zones began to take its toll. What once felt exciting, the thrill of calling across continents, started to feel exhausting. Emma worked late nights at the marketing firm, often finishing emails and reports long after dark. Ryan's mornings began before sunrise, filled with back-to-back meetings and project deadlines. Scheduling a call became a careful balancing act, a puzzle neither of them could solve perfectly. One Thursday evening, Emma stayed up past midnight, laptop glowing softly in the dark, waiting for Ryan. When he finally appeared on screen, she could barely keep her eyes open. "Hey, Emma?" said Ryan, rubbing his temples. "I'm sorry I'm late." "I'm the one who stayed up," Emma replied, stifling a yawn. "You promised 8 p.m. your time, remember?" "I know. Time zones, they—" "Ugh," Ryan groaned, his words stretched awkwardly over the lagging connection. "I just had a meeting that ran over." Emma frowned, frustrated but trying to remain patient. "It's fine. Sometimes I feel like we're never actually on the same schedule." Ryan looked down at his desk. "I know. I hate it too. I feel like I'm missing your day while you're missing mine." For the first time, the distance felt like more than a number of miles. It was a wall of clocks and calendars. Emma would wake up to his good morning while she was about to sleep, and Ryan would greet her at his evening while she was buried in work. Even when they did manage a call, exhaustion made conversations shallow. They talked about work updates, brief personal stories, and occasionally a favorite show. But the spontaneity, the natural rhythm they had in person was gone. One Saturday, Emma tried to cheer herself up with a long video call. "Let's have breakfast together," she suggested, showing her half-eaten toast and coffee. Ryan laughed, showing his dinner plate. "Sure, if breakfast for you is dinner for me." They both laughed, but underneath lingered the truth. They were living opposite lives. Calls that were supposed to connect them sometimes highlighted how out of sync they really were. Emma closed her laptop that night, exhaustion settling in her bones. She missed the simplicity of sitting next to Ryan, sharing a quiet morning, a laugh, a touch. The calls could bridge the distance, yes, but only if patience and understanding carried them through. Ryan, in his apartment across the ocean, felt the same. He stared at the blank screen after their call ended, wishing time zones weren't a barrier. He longed for the days when they could wake up and eat, work, and laugh together without planning every second. The time zones weren't just numbers, they were silent thieves, stealing moments they used to take for granted. And the strain was only beginning.
Emma had begun to notice a new feeling creeping in, a hollow ache that no video call could fill. Even when Ryan was on screen, smiling and waving, she felt an emptiness that gnawed at her chest. Sitting alone in her small apartment, the walls seemed to close in during the quiet moments after work, when the day's noise faded away. One evening, she scrolled through photos on her phone, snapshots of their college days, laughing under the sun, hugging after exams, holding hands without a care. She sighed and whispered to herself, "I miss us, the way we used to be." On the other side of the ocean, Ryan felt the same. His apartment, though full of new furniture and work gadgets, felt cold and impersonal without Emma's presence. He would make tea, hoping to share a quiet moment with her over a call, only to remember that she was thousands of miles away. her laughter delayed or lost in glitches. One night, during a call that seemed almost normal, Emma tried to hide her sadness. "Did you see the new cafe on Main Street?" she asked, forcing cheerfulness. Ryan smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah, looked nice in the pictures." "Maybe we can go together next time," she said softly, almost to herself. Ryan hesitated. "I hope so," he whispered. The words felt heavier than the screen could show. After the call ended, Emma stayed in bed, staring at the ceiling. She longed for the simple things, an arm around her shoulder, a walk in the park, the sound of Ryan humming in the kitchen. Video calls could show his face, yes, but they couldn't replace the warmth of presence, the comfort of touch. The loneliness wasn't just about missing someone physically. It was about missing the little, unnoticed parts of life they once shared, the jokes over breakfast, the silent comfort of being in the same room, the unspoken understanding that came naturally when they were together. Ryan, too, felt it during late nights when the city was quiet and only the hum of his laptop kept him company. He missed the way Emma's energy filled a room, the way her laughter made mundane days bright. The calls were a lifeline, but they also reminded him painfully of what was absent. That week, Emma called Ryan just to hear his voice, not to talk about anything important. They sat in silence for a few minutes, smiling faintly at each other. No laughter, no playful teasing, just presence through the fragile medium of a screen. Sometimes, Emma realized, it wasn't about solving the problems of distance. It was about acknowledging the loneliness, sharing it, and holding on to the hope that one day the ache would be replaced with real moments again. And across the ocean, Ryan felt the same. Loneliness shared, even through glitches, could make it a little more bearable.
Even with the glitches, time zones, and waves of loneliness, Emma and Ryan began to notice small victories, tiny moments that reminded them why they were fighting to stay connected. It started with a letter. Ryan, remembering the joy of holding something tangible, had taken time one weekend to write Emma a handwritten note. It wasn't just a hi or I miss you. He filled the pages with memories, jokes, and little promises. When it arrived, Emma held it in her hands for a long time, savoring the ink, the paper, and the effort behind it. She called him immediately. "I got it! Ryan, this is... wow!" "I'm glad," he said, his voice warm. "I wanted you to feel me there, even if I'm not." Emma smiled, tears prickling. "You did. It feels real, like I can actually hold a piece of you." They began finding other small ways to bridge the gap. Emma made a playlist of songs they loved in college, sending it to Ryan so he could listen while working late nights. Ryan recorded short voice messages, telling her about the little things in his day, a cat he saw outside the office window, a coffee shop that reminded her of her. Even the glitchy calls became moments of laughter rather than frustration. They learned to joke about frozen screens, delayed voices, and pixelated faces. "Hey, are you stuck again, or is that your new dance move?" Emma teased one evening when Ryan's image froze mid-wave. Ryan laughed, shaking his head. "It's the dance of love across time zones," he said, and they both giggled until tears ran down their cheeks. They also started celebrating small milestones, finishing a difficult project, a promotion, or just surviving a particularly grueling week. They'd send gifts, plan many virtual movie nights, or even just share their meals over a video call. The key was noticing the little wins that made life feel connected, even when the distance was vast. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments of frustration, days when one of them forgot to call or a connection failed during an important conversation. But the little wins reminded them that love wasn't just about being together physically. It was about effort, thoughtfulness, and choosing each other every day. One night, Emma leaned back on her couch after a long call, smiling.
Ryan's voice echoed in her ears, telling a silly story about a coworker's mix-up. She felt warmth spread through her chest. It wasn't the same as hugging him in person, but it was close enough for now. And across the ocean, Ryan ended his day with the same feeling, holding his phone and thinking, "We're making this work. We really are." Sometimes, in long-distance love, it's the little things, the handwritten letters, the playlists, the frozen faces that keep the spark alive. And for Emma and Ryan, those little wins were everything.
Even with all the little wins, distance had a way of testing them in ways they hadn't expected. The small frustrations of calls and schedules could usually be laughed off, but sometimes something bigger happened. It started with a missed video date. Ryan had promised Emma a long call on Saturday evening, their first chance to talk without interruptions all week. Emma had cleared her evening, even ordering her favorite takeout to share virtually with him. She waited by her laptop, excitement buzzing in her chest. Hours passed. Ryan didn't appear. At first, Emma thought it was another minor glitch. She sent a message. "Hey, are you okay?" Minutes later, Ryan's reply popped up. "Sorry, got caught up at work. Can we talk later?" Emma's heart sank. "Later?" she typed back, her fingers trembling. "You promised. You knew I cleared my evening." Ryan called almost immediately, but the warmth she expected was missing from his voice. "I know, Emma, I'm sorry. Things ran late." "You just forgot," Emma said, her voice sharp. "You know how important this call was to me." "I didn't forget," Ryan protested. "I'm trying, Emma. I really am." But the frustration on both sides was already boiling over. A simple misstep had transformed into a battle of emotions. Emma felt hurt and neglected. Ryan felt unfairly accused, despite his busy schedule. The argument grew heated, voices raised, words clipped by the frustration of distance and miscommunication. The glitches, the time zones, and the months apart had left them both raw, and now a single missed promise felt like the end of everything. Finally, Emma ended the call, tears blurring her vision. She stared at the blank screen, feeling the sting of loneliness more acutely than ever. Ryan sat on his side of the world, staring at his own empty screen, heart pounding, wishing he could reach through and fix everything. For the first time in months, they didn't speak for an entire day. Silence stretched longer than any call or delay could have. The absence of connection was heavier than the glitches, heavier than the time zones. Emma questioned whether love alone was enough. Ryan wondered if they were both holding on to a fantasy. That night, Emma wrote in her journal, trying to make sense of her emotions. "We've done everything right, yet it still hurts. Is this distance stronger than us?" Ryan, meanwhile, replayed every word, every missed cue, every delayed response. He realized that love wasn't just about trying, it was about showing up, even when the world was inconvenient. Sometimes, even the strongest bonds falter, and sometimes it takes a misstep to show just how much effort is needed to keep them alive. After the fight and the silence of the previous day, both Emma and Ryan felt the weight of the distance more than ever. The anger had faded, replaced by a quiet ache, a longing that neither could ignore. It was Ryan who finally broke the silence with a simple text, "I miss us. Can we talk?" Emma stared at the screen, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. She felt both relief and caution. After a deep breath, she typed back, "Yes, let's talk." When the video call connected, the first few moments were awkward. They sat staring at each other, hesitant, unsure how to bridge the emotional gap that the misstep had created. Then Ryan spoke softly, almost a whisper. "I'm sorry, Emma. I really messed up yesterday. I shouldn't have let work get in the way like that."
Emma swallowed, feeling her own guilt rise. I overreacted too. I know you were busy, and I just felt left out. Ryan smiled faintly. Distance does weird things to us, huh? Emma nodded. Yeah, it makes small things feel huge and misunderstandings feel impossible to fix. They talked for hours that night, but this time differently. Instead of focusing on the missed call, they focused on rebuilding the connection. They shared details about their day, stories they hadn't had a chance to tell before, and even joked about the frozen screens and delayed voices that had caused so many arguments. I swear, one day we'll look back at all these glitches and laugh, Ryan said, showing a frozen image of his own face mid-laugh. Emma giggled. Yeah, right now it just feels like we're living in a buffering loop. But beneath the humor was a deeper understanding. They agreed to reset expectations, recognizing that they couldn't control time zones, work schedules, or technology. What they could control was their effort, their patience, and their willingness to stay present for each other. They also created little routines to reconnect, shorter, more frequent calls, voice messages during the day, and sharing small daily victories. Emma sent pictures of her coffee in the morning. Ryan sent short clips of his work commute. Even the smallest gestures reminded them that they were thinking of each other, even when they couldn't be physically together. By the end of the night, the tension that had built over the previous day had melted. They felt lighter, closer, and more resilient. The misstep had been painful, but it had also reminded them that love wasn't just about being together. It was about showing up, apologizing, forgiving, and finding new ways to connect. As they said goodnight, Emma whispered, "We'll get through this. Distance or not, we'll get through this." Ryan's smile was genuine, and for the first time in a long while, he didn't feel the weight of the miles between them. Yeah, we'll get through this, together. And in that moment, across thousands of miles and 1,000 glitches, they felt a spark of closeness stronger than any video call could capture.
Months had passed since Ryan's last trip abroad, and every video call, every message, every little win had led to this moment. Ryan finally booked his flight to visit Emma. The anticipation was electric, tinged with nervousness. After months of relying on screens and schedules, they were about to be together in the same room again. Emma arrived at the airport early, her heart racing. She clutched her backpack, scanning the arrivals gate for him. Time seemed to slow, each minute stretching as she watched passengers reunite with loved ones. Then, through the crowd, she saw him. Ryan, tired from the flight, but smiling nervously, holding a small bouquet of her favorite flowers. "Emma," he called softly, almost afraid she might disappear if he spoke too loudly. She ran, nearly knocking into him, and wrapped her arms around his neck. For the first time in months, the distance melted away, not in pixels or lagging audio, but in warmth, in touch, in presence. "I missed you so much," she whispered into her shoulder, tears streaming down her face. "I missed you too," Ryan replied, hugging her tightly, "more than I realized." That evening they walked through the streets of her city, hand in hand, laughing like they used to. Every detail, every shared glance felt amplified. Video calls could show expressions, yes, but they couldn't replicate the comfort of touch, the warmth of a shared space, or the sound of laughter echoing around them. They spent days rediscovering each other, simple pleasures magnified by months of separation. Cooking together, exploring the local market, even sitting in comfortable silence on her couch, each moment was a reminder that love could endure distance, but it flourished best in presence. One night, as they sat on the balcony watching the city lights, Emma leaned against Ryan's shoulder. "All the glitches, all the missed calls, none of it mattered once we were here," she said softly. Ryan kissed her forehead. "Yeah, Technology helped, but it couldn't compare to this, being with you, really being with you. The visit became a turning point. They realized that while video calls, messages, and letters were essential, nothing could replace real connection. And for the first time in months, they didn't feel the strain of distance. They felt hope, closeness, and certainty that their love could survive anything. It was a reminder that long distance was a test, but also a lesson. Patience, effort, and persistence could turn struggles into meaningful moments.
After Ryan's visit, Emma and Ryan settled into a rhythm that balanced connection with independence. They knew the time apart wasn't over, but now they had experienced something that changed the way they approached long-distance love. Patience, understanding, and appreciation for the small moments. They began reflecting on everything they had endured, the glitchy calls, the missed schedules, the fights, and the loneliness. Each challenge had taught them something new. Emma realized that frustration was natural, but communication and honesty could prevent small misunderstandings from becoming big arguments. Ryan understood that effort wasn't just about showing up, it was about being present emotionally and mentally, even from thousands of miles away. One evening, as they shared a video call after his visit, Emma smiled. "You know, I never thought we'd make it this far," she admitted. Ryan grinned. "I know. It wasn't easy, but somehow we kept choosing each other." Emma nodded. "It's weird. Distance taught me more about love than being together ever could. I've learned to appreciate every little message, every small call, even when the connection freezes." Ryan laughed softly. "And I've learned that love isn't just about big gestures. Sometimes it's just sending a voice note, laughing at a frozen face, or waiting an extra hour for a call because schedules don't match." They shared a quiet moment, thinking about the miles, the months, and the obstacles they had faced. Distance had forced them to communicate more clearly, to plan more intentionally, and to value presence, both virtual and real. Emma realized that love was not just about feeling connected, it was about nurturing that connection, even when life made it difficult. Ryan understood that patience and creativity were as important as passion. They had both grown individually, learning resilience, empathy, and the art of compromise. As they ended the call that night, Emma whispered, "I feel like we're stronger now, more than ever." Ryan smiled, his voice warm and confident. "We are. Distance tested us, but it didn't break us. And now we know we can handle whatever comes next." The lesson was clear. Love could survive challenges, but it required effort, understanding, and trust. And for Emma and Ryan, the trials of long distance had become the foundation for a love that could endure anything.
Months had passed since Ryan's visit, and while the distance still existed, Emma and Ryan had discovered a rhythm that worked for them. They had learned to treasure the small wins, to forgive mistakes, and to communicate honestly, even when it was hard. The strain of long distance was no longer a burden. It was a challenge they were ready to face together. One evening, they sat on a video call, sipping tea. The connection was smooth, the conversation flowing naturally. "I was thinking," Ryan began, a hint of excitement in his voice, "what if we start planning a future where distance isn't a problem anymore? Not just visits, but actually being in the same place." Emma's eyes lit up. "You mean living in the same city?" "Yeah, we've managed this far apart, but imagine how much easier it would be to just wake up and see each other every day." Emma smiled, feeling a mix of hope and relief. "I'd like that. I think we've both grown so much. We're stronger now, together and individually."
The months of challenges, the miscommunications, the loneliness, and the little victories, they had all led to this moment. They had learned that love wasn't just about shared smiles and laughter. It was about effort, patience, creativity, and persistence. They had proven that a spark could survive glitchy calls, delayed voices, and endless time zones. As they shared their plans for the future, Emma felt a sense of calm she hadn't felt in months. Distance had tested them, but it had also shown them the true depth of their connection and the resilience of a love built to last.
Thank you for watching Emma and Ryan's story. Long-distance relationships are full of challenges, but with patience, effort, and understanding, love can survive anything. What did you learn from their journey? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to follow more real-life stories that help you learn English and life lessons every day.